So for section 5.2, we're going to start with example 1. Ignore the fact that mine says to be continued. That's part of something else. So the question reads, gymnastic clothing manufacturers expensive hockey jerseys, these are shirts, for sale to college bookstores in runs of up to 500. So that means like a batch, like maybe a bolt of fabric can only make 500 jerseys. It costs in dollars for a run of X jerseys is C of X, and you're given a function. So in part A, we're focused on the gymnastic clothing company wants to minimize average costs, find the average cost function. So we want to minimize. We now have a first and second derivative test to do that with, but it asks for the average cost function, and that's not what we're given. So the question becomes, why is it the average cost and not the total cost, which is what we were given? And basically, since X equals 0 minimizes the cost, that's how you save money. If you don't make anything, it's the cheapest outcome there is. But we want the lowest cost per item, and that's the key piece. Average cost finds a per item amount, and so versus the total cost function, which just finds an at the end of amount. So now we know we want to focus on the average cost, which we usually write C bar of X. Hopefully you remember that from, was it chapter 2? And it's found by taking the total cost divided by the number of items sold, and without knowing how many items, we just use the generic X. So I need to copy the question 2,000 plus 10x plus 0.2x squared and divide that function by x, which if you remember is the same thing as actually dividing each term by x. So my average cost function is, first I focus on 2,000 divided by x. This does not simplify, so I just have 2,000x. Next, I focus on 10x divided by x. Since the x's cancel, I just have a 10. And finally, I need to focus on the last term, which cancels one x from the bottom with one of the x's on the top to just give me 0.2x. And so now we have our answer. Okay, part B. Since they produce the jerseys in runs of up to 500, we will study the average cost function when x is in the domain of, well, we know that it ends at 500, right? But where does it start? We'll say 0, but we're actually putting a round parenthesis, assuming that we already said, well, 0 would minimize cost and therefore average cost. We don't want the answer to actually be 0 because that's not helpful. We want to say if we actually produce these. So the round parenthesis means don't count the 0, but is it 0.2, which you can't make 0.2 jerseys, but up to 500.